Alright, so today's video, we got some Reddit stories, so let's get into them. As a child, I was surrounded by religion. Although not entirely understanding the complexity of it, I knew of ghosts and goblins and all things that go bump in the night. Having two older brothers who loved horror movies and creeping out our younger siblings pushed me into the macabre and terrifying at an early age. However, this was different. This was something outside of normality or rationality. We had this painting, a painting of a lighthouse on a small island with an overlooking cliff on the foreground. There were fog clouds over the top, but not to obscure the stereotypical red spiral of the lighthouse itself. The cliffs were an amber color, almost like a grassy field in the late evening. This painting would become the object of my childhood attachment to something. That thing was, I swear up and down this is true, because deep down it has to be, that if you stare at this painting, the sea would spray over so slightly, or the clouds would move across the page, animated for fractions of a moment, before settling back down to its original orientation. Eventually, things started to occur in our home. Call it an overactive child's imagination, but I'm going to explain how I remember. I distinctly remember a deep, deep voice, thinking of one of those voice-changing apps that over-bassed your voice. That deep. Sometimes I wouldn't understand it. Other times it would tell me mundane things. One time I could vividly make out instructions on how to tie my shoes. I remember looking down the hallway to my parents' room, waiting for whoever said that to reveal themselves. The strangest thing was that I never felt fear. I was maybe 7 or 8 years old at the time, so I should have known something was wrong, but it didn't catch up to me until my late teens for reasons I will get into later. The dreams I would have in that house were wild as well. The closet held an enigmatic grip on my mind, seeming to be infinite in the darkness. The hallway door always seemed to be cracked open at night, despite my parents always making sure we closed it. My brother was too young to use the bathroom himself, and my sister would wet the bed, because she was afraid of getting up at night. I also remember never wanting to look in the mirror at night, although that could be attributed to the Bloody Mary craze that shook every elementary school at the time. Unfortunately, dear viewer, that was my extent of paranormal attachment to that house, and moreover that painting. That is, until one night my sister, Buddy, and I were staying up late watching scary YouTube videos. I had never disclosed the above to anyone in any capacity, so what I was about to hear shook me to my core in a way I didn't know you could be afraid. The stereotypical hair standing on end, tears filling your eyes, and going completely catatonic. We were talking about scary things that happened to us, and my buddy Jacob was telling of the time he and a mutual friend of ours went to a graveyard and swore they saw something scurrying around that wasn't a dog or raccoon. I told of the time I was out during an orienting trip in high school and came to a clearing, alone, to see a large wolf standing right at me, and continued to as I kept facing it as I passed. Then my sister's turn came up. So basically, there was this painting we had with a lighthouse, and I swear it would move if you would look at it. I froze and listened. She went on about how she would hear a voice, but it was bitter and angry. At night, she would see someone peer through the cracked door. She would have dreams of large eyes staring from the closet at us in the room. One dream she had was that there was an extra door in the hallway, and she opened it up to reveal a deep basement. As she descended down, it became more grimy, with leaves and dirt covering the steps. Then this 5-year-old girl turned to see a couch littered with mutilated women with "You're next" written in blood. Again, this could be an overactive child's imagination, or something more. It was after that she noticed I was very upset, to the point of tears. Her brother, who recently got back from basic training not too long ago, reduced to a teary-eyed wreck. She asked what was wrong, and I explained my half on how the absurdity of not just one of us, but both of us experiencing the same thing, although in different ways. It was mind-blowing. I consider myself a religious man to this day, and I don't want to know exactly what it was we experienced, as I would prefer to be ignorant. To this day, recalling these events still causes my hair to stand up and my eyes to water. It's a type of fear you can't get from a horror movie or game. This was back when I was in elementary school. I don't remember why we had to move out, but I was really upset about leaving my friends behind. A family we knew let us stay temporarily in their old house while my parents looked for a more permanent place. They warned us it was old and a bit worn out, but livable. The moment we got there, something felt off. I got goosebumps immediately, and my youngest siblings refused to even step inside. She just stood there crying. The atmosphere felt heavy. The house had 2 rooms and an attic. I used to go up there and found a bunch of old makeup and documents. On the first night, my sister kept tossing and turning and eventually moved to the other side of the bed. The next morning, she told me, and made me promise not to tell her mom, that she saw a little girl sitting on top of the closet, just staring at us. We ended up fighting because I thought she was just trying to scare me, but after all of that, neither one of us wanted to sleep on that side of the bed anymore. A lot of weird things happened during our stay, but this one stuck with me the most. My dad is a painter, and at the time he was out of town for a few days. One night, my mom had a nightmare. In her dream, she saw a man sitting in the living room with a little girl beside him. They were both staring at her, mouthing something she couldn't understand. Then suddenly, she saw my dad behind her, grabbing her shoulders and telling her to wake up because my sister had a fever. He also said it was 3 a.m. and that there were 2 men outside trying to break in. My mom woke up immediately and checked the time. It was at exactly 3 a.m. My sister, who was sleeping next to her, was burning up with a fever. My mom rushed to the living room and turned on all the lights. Right after that, she heard a loud thud at the door, followed by footsteps running away. I asked her if she was just trying to scare me, but she insisted it really happened. She also told me something I didn't know before. The owners of that house used to run a funeral home business. My sister even joked that the makeup we were messing with back then was probably used for that. Yeah, I barely slept after she told me that. I'm 26. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment in Akron, Ohio with my older brother, Danny. Danny works overnight shifts at a packing plant 3 nights a week, so those nights I'm alone in the apartment. This happened on one of those nights. It was a Thursday. I remember because I ordered Domino's and watched the new episode of something on Hulu and went to bed probably around 1 a.m. Nothing weird about that day. Nothing weird about the apartment. We've lived there for 8 months. It's a normal place above a dry cleaner's. The guy downstairs plays guitar sometimes, and you can faintly hear it through the floor. That's the weirdest thing about the building normally. I woke up and my body was just off. Like I came back to consciousness, but my body didn't get the memo. Eyes open, brain running, arms and legs just completely checked out. I was on my back, which I never sleep on. I'm a side sleeper, always have been. That's the first thing that felt wrong. I stared at the water stain on the ceiling above my bed. It's been there ever since we moved in. Vaguely shaped like the state of Texas. Landlord said he'd fix it and never did. I've looked at that stain 100 times. I focused on it because focusing on something familiar felt important. Then I heard the guitar downstairs stop. It was 2 a.m. The guy downstairs never plays past midnight. I never heard him play that late. And when it stopped suddenly, mid-strum, like someone grabbed the strings. Not wide open, maybe 4 inches, just enough that it was dark inside, and I was looking at the darkness, and the darkness was just there. I told myself Danny must have come home early and opened it looking for something. I told myself that for about 30 seconds. Danny's car wasn't in the lot. I checked before I went to bed because I always check. It's a habit. Parking is tight and I need to know if I have to move my car in the morning. Something was in that 4-inch gap between the closet door and the frame. I don't know how. I knew. I just knew. The way you know when someone is standing behind you in a room before you turn around. Some part of your brain that is older than language just sends up a flare. It wasn't a shape I could clearly make out. It was more like the darkness inside the closet was deeper than it should have been. Concentrated. Aware. And it was looking at me. I tried to scream. What came out was basically nothing, like trying to yell underwater. I tried to move my arm, and it was like my arm was a suggestion my body was ignoring. I just laid there on my back staring at that 4-inch gap, and that 4-inch gap staring back at me. It came out. Not fast, slow. The door didn't open further, which is somehow worse. It came through the gap without the gap getting bigger. It was tall, thin in a way that felt wrong, like the portions were slightly off in a way my brain kept trying to correct. No face that I could see, no hands I could clearly make out. It crossed the room and stood at the side of my bed. The code hit me before it even got close, not like AC code, not like winter code, the specific code of something that has no warmth of its own, like standing next to a hole in the world. It looked down at me for what felt like a long time. I was crying, I think. I couldn't feel my face, but when it was over my cheeks were wet. And then it reached down and pressed 2 fingers against my collarbone, right at the base of my throat. Not hard, not violent, just resting them there, like it was feeling for something. And then it was gone, just gone. And my body came back to me all at once, and I sat up so fast I got dizzy and turned on every light I could reach and sat against my headboard until the sun came up. Danny come home around 7 a.m. and I was still sitting there. He took one look at me and said what happened. I told him. He's not the type to make fun of me for stuff like that. He just listened and nodded, and then went to look in the closet, stood in front of it for a few seconds, then closed it. He slept home every night that week without me asking him to. He hasn't said anything about it, neither have I, but 3 days after it happened, I was getting dressed and looked in the bathroom mirror, and there were 2 small bruises on the base of my throat, faint, the size of fingertips. I didn't hit anything. I didn't bump into anything. I took a photo of them. I still have the photo. I've looked at it probably 50 times trying to talk myself out of what I think it means. I can't. Alright, so that was today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. It seemed like you guys are. I enjoy reading them. So if you enjoy this type of content, then stick around for more. I would enjoy that. But thank you for all of the people who allowed me to read their stories. I found each one of them fascinating. So until next time, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.